So, as I mentioned in the video before, I'm going over the stats of the players at Worlds 2020 from their group stage performance, going over some bits and bits here. Nothing too special, so let's get right into it. Starting in the top lane, looking at the different KDA values. Most of them are around 4 or 3.5, but Dragon X Doran with 6.11 really standing out here and showing that, Dragon X had many kills and not as many deaths, right? That's what KDA means. Interesting to see is if a player has high KDA and is still good in the other stats, which then indicate that he's not a KDA player. We can't look at damage here because damage is champion specific, so this is not a value that we can really compare. I know KDA, CS and kill participation are also team reliant, but these are one of the few stats which are more pure in their perception. Going over the CS, we see Doran and Bin, as well as Zoom, have really good CS. 369 and Wonder are close to them, but there's a clear distinction in the top. And so 8.7 CS per minute, really solid stats here. Kill participation, we have some new faces here. Marchi's PK, Genji's Rascal, and Fnatic's Popo again here. So we see around 60 to 70%. And teams like Marchi, Dragon X involve their top laner in their play, or play around their top laner, right? Either one of these. As such, these kill participation stats are the result. Otherwise, 60% is actually not that high, but 68 and 64, they are quite decent. Moving on into the next position, the jungle. Going over some KDAs that are noteworthy. 10.83 from Kalsa. Yeah, that's really good actually. Similarly, Canyon's with his 8.44. For Canyon, not sure if you remember, but he had 2 games where he was 13 and 1, and the death only came from the end where he was fountain diving and trolling around. So in actuality, his KDA would be quite a bit higher, but 8.4 is still very good. The others, very decent KDAs I have to mention. CS per minute is very interesting, 7.52 for Canyon and Selfmade. So we see Canyon and Selfmade are really good farming junglers, same with SOFM. But in the next stats we also can see that Canyon is really kill heavy and dependent on the kills in his team. He enables his team more than a Selfmade does, seen in the kill participation. It could also mean that the solo laners of Fnatic or Down1 are killing more or less individually, but overall, I mean, from the gameplay as well, we could see that Canyon is a really good jungler, and with such high CS per minute, it further underlines his great control over the jungle. In kill participation, we see some interesting stuff like PSG's River or G2's Yankos. Maybe some names you wouldn't have expected here, especially Yankos. G2 usually known for their solo killings and solo inting, but it seems that the team is now more playing with the jungler to enable their laners, and is not enough for solo action. Moving into the mid lane, we see Chovy in first for CS and KDA. So my prediction with him as the best mid laner was seemingly correct here. The stats underline my assumption. Actually, Knight not first in any or in these categories, not even in the top 5. So I'll have to see what went wrong here. He died a couple times, played Galio, so Other than that, Nemesis also very noteworthy. Someone many people don't have on their radar, as well as Jensen and Power of Evil. Even though their teams are not doing all that well, the individual laning seems to be quite solid, but the laning is on cost of their team, The kill participation is so high for Power of Evil because the team needs him, not because the team is able to do anything without him. As such, these stats are not really indicative to the to the playstyle of the player. PoE is not really roam heavy per se in comparison to other mid laners, but the rest of his team is often playing around him. Similar story for Caps, but reversed. So the team is coming to him in some cases, but often he is roaming around. As such, his kill participation is high. Same with Xie. Interesting to see for me is PSG's tank with 8.84 CS per minute. With the aggressive fighting style that his team was playing, this is actually very good. So overall I was really surprised by how good PSG was in all positions, if it was now play-ins or main stage group. Looking into the ADC position, so we see some good KDAs here. As expected for AD carries, the normal value for KDAs is way higher than in any other position. So even though 10 and 9 are really great, and even in comparison to the other AD carries, it's not as outstanding as 10.18 in jungle position. So then CS per minute, we don't see any 10 CS per minute or even higher in this worlds. It's because there's not much farming going on and more fighting. Even the AD carries, in some cases the AD carries are initiating the fights or roaming towards them, and in others they are being engaged upon. As such, their kill participation and CS per minute is influenced by this. Overall, AD carries usually have lower kill participation in fast matters, but we see players like Jackie and Ruler, as well as Tactical, who are core pieces of their team, still racking up great numbers here. That's because they are being played around, which is good or bad depending on how you look at it, right? So your AD carry shouldn't be a number one priority in the meta at the moment, but it's good for a team if you can involve this extra man in any fight, in any rotation, right? Going over the supports in last position here, we see some decent KDAs. I mean, engaged supports are the meta now, so we don't see any Jana KDAs. Still, Yujanja, CoreJJ racking up some decent numbers here. I'm not going over CS per minute. As I said in the last video, CS per minute is not really useful for supports, and it's often manipulative by some cheese champions, right? So fasting Senna heavily influences the CS per minute of their support. So I'm just going over the kill participations here. PSG Kaiwing 76%, Little Mao 72%, and then close to 70% from the others. Really interesting and really shows how much emphasis support show to roaming at the moment, leaving the AD carry on an island in many cases, and then influencing the mid lane in the 2 vs 3 or 3 vs 2. So we see some good stats here from different players. Again, a PSG player highly here in the kill participation stat. It shows how much they are team fighting or skirmishing in the game. Let's get some overview now with overall stats. Going over KDAs. We have seen most of them, so I'm not going into too much detail here. But Kasa's KDA is really astonishing from a jungler. That's really, really good. Other than that, Canyon as well with 8.44, and as I mentioned before, his real KDA would be a bit higher if it weren't for these 2 unnecessary deaths that he went for by fountain dives. CS per minute, some Dragon Eggs and some Fnatic players are really popping off here, getting the extra gold through the minions. Really great and praiseworthy. Keep up the good work, I want to say here. Kill participation, PSG, TS, Dragon Eggs. And another PSG player, yeah, this is something to be expected. Teams that are heavily team fighting, and in case of Kai Wing, a support that is heavily roaming. Doesn't matter which AD carry he has, he's always on the move, even in not roaming matchups. His AD carry is either killed or in most cases unified, played rather safely on the turret, enabling his support to move around the map. So yeah, from these stats we can not only see which player is really good at the moment or popping off or having some consistent performances. Not only that, but we can also deduce the meta in a sense. We see with the kill participations that top lane is not really the focus, supports are roaming, and AD carries are involved in mid-game fights for Dragon probably, because this is the closest lane to mid or bot, the lanes where AD carries mostly stay in the game. Also, we see high kill participations from junglers, shows that they are a core piece at the moment, either in enabling or in being enabled. Additionally, through the KDAs, we see that supports play engaged supports, and top lane play tanks are also engaged champions. Through the overall CS per minutes, we can deduce that junglers are farming, and the game is overall very fast because no one has too high CS per minute numbers. So this is this, and that's the end of the recap videos. We're going into the recaps or reviews for the knockout stages tomorrow. So yeah, that's that. See you then.